recap of AEW Dynamite for January the 6th, 2021, the first Dynamite of the new year. I will also be talking about the WWE NXT show, the New Year's Evil special. AEW had the New Year's Smash special. We'll talk about Dynamite first. Shout out to the chat room, and I'll just say this right up front. I agree with Randy. Both shows very entertaining tonight. Let's go ahead and break things down. Dynamite kicked off with Jim Ross saying it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Looks like that's going to be the new tagline for Dynamite every week, and I'm all for it, in tribute of Brody Lee. Our first match was a tag team match, 8-man match. Young Bucks, the champs, teaming up with SCU against the Acclaimed and TH2. Before the match, the Acclaimed did their rap promo, which sounded to me like the old PG-13 tag team. Remember the Nation of Domination? You had PG-13 doing the rapping as they made their entrance. Felt like that. They even acknowledged the John Cena comparisons and said, if they're John Cena, the Young Bucks are Marty Jannetty. Ouch. I will say that's a pretty significant dig to call somebody Marty Jannetty. And Marty Jannetty, poor guy. He was such a big deal at one point and had so much potential, but look how things turned out. Anyways, pretty fun match here to kick off the show, and it was acknowledged on commentary that if SCU lose a match, they will break up as a tag team. They're doing the Shawn Michaels, well, actually not Shawn Michaels, the Ric Flair storyline back in 2008, where if he loses one match, he's done. Only instead of retiring, they're just going to break up as a tag team. And Chris Jericho, who was on commentary for the show, everybody's favorite right now, Chris Jericho, said that AEW actually sticks to their stipulations. Match was good here, but pretty much a showcase for the babyface teams. The Bucks and SCU worked well together, and they picked up the win. Matt Jackson had everything set up for the Meltzer driver, but it was Christopher Daniels doing the best moonsault ever to help the teams pick up the victory in the opening match. And then afterwards, Kazarian got on the mic, talked about the stipulation, and said that they are not going to lose on his watch. Daniels said that they have the Bucks' backs. They will be right there beside them, except for when they get their opportunity at the tag team titles. And they want to beat the best team on the planet. So looks like at some point we'll be getting the Bucks versus SCU. Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Caleb. I appreciate it. First one of the evening. He says, this show made an impact. I see what you did there, Caleb, and we'll talk about the impact at the end, if you know what I mean. We had Jon Moxley come out for his first interview in the ring since losing the AEW title to Kenny Omega. And Nick Lavin says, why is this their stipulation? Did I miss something regarding SCU? This is the first I've heard about it, but maybe they said something on AEW Dark or Being the Elite. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in the chat room could answer that. But that's the storyline they're doing now with SCU. If they lose, they're done as a team. Moxley came out to cut his promo. He said, life is not fair. All you can do is endure. He said he took one on the chin. And he also said that he has a zero tolerance policy for shitty people. And he wants to beat Kenny Omega, and he wants to beat up that asshole, Don Callis. And he said the A word, which it's funny because Tony Khan comes out before the shows and asks the fans to not swear, but then you have the wrestlers swearing, and it's funny because they were trying to edit out the profanity, but like WWE, they did not do a very good job, and you could clearly hear the profanity. I just find it amusing. And Moxley said the only reason he's going to wait is because he doesn't want to screw up Rey Fenix's chance for the world title. Fenix was scheduled to face Omega in the main event for the championship, and Moxley wanted to make sure that Fenix, who's been busting his ass for 13 years, gets that opportunity. But he said that he will be in Omega's blind spot. And one day, Omega will look the devil in the eyes and beg for mercy and realize that he crossed the wrong person. Very good promo here from Jon Moxley. I enjoyed it. Backstage, we had the best friends. Well, two of the three best friends, so not so best friends. You had Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, and it was revealed that Trent will be out of action with a torn pec for about 4 to 5 months. Miro and Kip Sabian and Penelope interrupted the promo. Miro was wearing this tropical, very wacky looking outfit, and he made fun of them and said that Trent was the leader of their little group. Basically, Chuck challenged Miro to a match next week, and if Chuck loses, he will become Miro's young boy. Basically, his servant will do whatever Miro wants him to do leading up to the wedding, which is next month. So, can't really say I'm into this storyline, but I'm sure it'll make for some entertaining segments. I'm guessing Chuck will become his young boy for several weeks leading up to the wedding of Kip Sabian and Penelope. We had Jake Hager versus Wardlow in a battle of the big men, and you had the entire inner circle, except for Chris Jericho, who was on commentary, watching the match on the stage. Pretty standard big man match that you would expect from these two. Jericho talked about how this match was so they could get their aggressions taken out on each other. Wardlow hit a swanton, however, Hager kicked out of that and countered with a submission attempt, but Wardlow was able to get to the rope, and then Wardlow hit the F10 and pinned Hager clean in the middle, 1, 2, 3. I know people make fun of Hager and stuff, but maybe the biggest win of Wardlow's career, beating a guy who's had a pretty good run in MMA. And some people take him seriously, although he also has his fair share of people that say Hager doesn't really do anything, and he's just the guy there in the inner circle. I've seen mixed opinions about Hager. The announcers even called it an upset victory for Wardlow. I was fine with this, Wardlow getting the win here, the guy that you're trying to build up for the future. I'm totally fine with this. And Hager gave him a fist bump after the match, but was still upset, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Nick Lavin says, I am glad Wardlow won, benefited more than Hager would have. I agree with you on that, and Roy W. says Wardlow looked good. Tic Tat Tat says Swagger better than Hager. Backstage, we had the private party, and Snoop Dogg showed up with some gin and juice to have the party going all night long. And then Matt Hardy had to show up and be Matt Hardy, his new gimmick, Big Money Matt. He had these contracts where he gets a 30% take of private party's money, I guess. But they did sign the contract, and Matt said he's not a monster, despite what some people might think. He will actually let Private Party maintain their Cameo and Twitch accounts. Little knock on WWE right there. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, today is my birthday, how time flies by. Well, happy birthday to you, Psycho Jet Black. I'm not going to sing for you, but have a very happy birthday for the remaining time we have here. Mo Camera says, are you going to address the elephant in the room? I have no idea what that elephant in the room is unless you're talking about the end of the show, which I will talk about at the end of the review. That's typically how these things go. So we had a weigh-in segment with Brian Cage and Darby Allin. It was pretty standard. One of those segments you really did not need to do. It felt more like time filler than anything else. The only noteworthy thing was we did get a look at the updated championship, which really wasn't any different. The TNT title, it just now has a black strap instead of a red strap. That's literally the only change. It's the same design. It's fine. I was fine with the championship once they showed the finished product. I know the original did not look good. Whatever. They did the weigh-in. Cage is 272, Darby's 172. We have eyes. We know there's a huge weight difference. So again, segment wasn't really necessary. Darby talked about how he's dealt with shit his whole life from people like Taz, and he's like, let's just get this over with. He grabbed his skateboard. He was ready to try to fight off the bullies, and then all of a sudden the lights went out. The snow came into the Daly's place, and Sting showed up, and it's the same song and dance the last several weeks. Sting gets in the ring, Team Taz backs off, and Sting and Darby stare at each other a little bit, and that was the segment. So yeah, I'm still waiting for some kind of development with Sting. Are they going to announce a match, or what are they doing? I mean, they're probably saving it for the next big event, like in a month or so, the beach break, or maybe even save Sting's first so-called match for the Revolution pay-per-view. But yeah, they're basically just dragging it out as long as they can before they can appropriately have Sting announce that he's going to actually do something. And Psycho Jet Black, his favorite birthday song is Birthday by the Beatles. Well, that's a very good birthday song, so I definitely agree with that comment, Psycho. Apparently, Ken terminated by Google, who we have not seen in several months. He jumped ship, guys. He's like Snoop Dogg. He jumped ship. He's on Don Tony's YouTube channel now as a moderator. So, yeah, nothing lasts forever. Some people, they stick around Team No DQ, and some, after a while, they lose the moderator position and they jump ship. Oh, well, got to move on here. But I do thank Ken for his contributions to the channel over the past few years. Sad to see him go, but can't keep everybody happy, I suppose. Anyways, back to the show. We had Jake Hager, who, as I mentioned earlier, was still upset about losing to Wardlow. And you had MJF approach him and said Hager is a winner. He doesn't need to sweat the loss, and he should be proud of himself. And Hager was like, MJF, maybe you're not such a bad guy after all, and gave him a fist bump. Makes me wonder if this is going to lead to, like, as I mentioned before, maybe MJF ends up taking over the group from Jericho, kind of like how The Rock took over the Nation of Domination from Farouk. 2 Nation of Domination references so far. Can I get a Bart Gunn reference in? Well, I just said Bart Gunn, so there you go. We had footage shown of Brody Lee Jr. cutting a promo on Marco's stunt and talking about how Marco only wins matches when Luchasaurus is involved. So yeah, Brody Lee Jr. already knows how to get those digs in. Backstage, we had Jurassic Express interviewed. Marco was talking about them winning the tag titles. They were interrupted by FTR. They called Marco worthless, and Marco said he's going to enter the match. So instead of Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy against FTR, it's going to be Marco and Jungle Boy against FTR. And FTR, of course, accepted this. They're fine with it. So yeah, next week, I guess FTR will be winning because Marco's stunt is in this match. I mean, if Marco beats them, that's not good for FTR's future. Like, they left WWE to get beat by Marco's stunt. So I'm guessing this is just a way so FTR gets the win. But it just seems so obvious that I wonder if they're going to do the swerve and Marco's stunt pulls off the big upset. Ken terminated by no DQ. He left because he lost his moderator position. He was going a little bit overboard with his moderating, and I guess he took it personally. We had Cody Rhodes versus Matt Sydal, formerly Evan Bourne, for those of you that do not follow the indie scene. You had Snoop Dogg come out with Cody Rhodes. So tonight, instead of Arn Anderson, it was Snoop Dogg as Cody's mentor. Cody came out to a remixed version of his song with Snoop Dogg doing a rap over it. And I'll just say this, not as good as the Sasha Banks Snoop Dogg remix. However, Cody got the big rub off of Snoop Dogg here, and match was good. It was a fine match between Cody and Sydal. It's pretty standard for the Cody matches. Cody's, making the other guy look good before he beats him, kind of like modern day John Cena. Sydal went for a shooting star with Cody getting his knees up, and Sydal did manage to put up a fight. He kicked out of a disaster kick at one point, but then Cody picked up the win with 2 crossroads. And after the match, Cody was attacked by Serpentico and Luther. Earlier in the match, Cody accidentally hit Serpentico, who was at ringside, so they attacked him after the match. And then Cody managed to fight them off with Matt Sydal. And then Snoop Dogg got into the ring. He climbed the top rope. He looked nervous as hell going to the top rope, and he somehow managed to not slip on his ass. He kind of jumped off the top rope. He did get high. Snoop Dogg got high on AEW Dynamite. That's a headline. He kind of got high and hit a frog splash, probably the worst frog splash of all time. But, Snoop Dogg, he was entertaining. I'll give him that. And they all celebrated after the match. And of course, Snoop Dogg was on the show to promote the Go Big show. Jericho is really funny talking about how Snoop Dogg jumped ship. I liked that line from Jericho. Backstage, well, actually not backstage, we had our match between Abaddon and Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Abaddon attacked Shida before the match even got going. They were fighting on the stage. Shida fought her off, and then they ended up fighting on the outside of the ring. And Abaddon actually pulled Shida under the ring, and when Shida came back out, her neck was bleeding, and Abaddon had blood in her mouth. So I guess she bit, like a vampire, she bit Shida under the ring. And then Shida eventually managed to make her comeback, hit her running knee strike, and retained the championship over Abaddon. She overcame her fears, all that stuff. Match was all right, not as good as the NXT women's match, which I will talk about here in a few minutes. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says Snoop Dogg versus Riddle, weed on a pole match. Depends if WWE wants anything to do with Snoop Dogg now, and we still don't know if Sasha Banks is going to go back to her old music or not. I guess time will tell. I mean, that would be very petty if WWE did that, but I would not be shocked if that happened. We had our main event of the evening, Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix. Match got a lot of time. The women's match was maybe about 10-15 minutes earlier than it usually was, so the main event could have some extra time, of course. Justin Roberts did the usual intro for Kenny Omega. And Fenix had a hot start, but Omega got the upper hand with a Snapdragon suplex on the outside of the ring. Omega dominated for a while. Fenix made a comeback, hit a lot of various big moves. He did this backflip off the second rope and hit a German suplex. That looked really cool. He had a lot of cool looking moves. Fenix was on fire here. Arguably the biggest match of his career, going for the world title. Don Callis got involved. He was distracting Fenix, and Fenix, stupid baby face, got distracted. However, he did recover fairly quickly from it, so it's not like it cost him the match. But still, why do these guys always get so easily distracted by the managers? I always have an issue with that. AEW doesn't do it as much, which I appreciate. WWE does it like every show, and it's very redundant. So anyways, Fenix put up a fight. He went for the Eddie Guerrero frog splash. He did the Eddie taunt, but then Omega got his knees up, hit a Tiger Driver, V-trigger. Fenix kicked out of that, but then Omega finally got the win with the one-winged angel. And after the match, Don Callis cut a promo, and he showed footage on the big screen. You had Pac and Penta being beat up by Eddie Kingston's faction, and that left Rey Fenix all alone in the ring by himself. Don Callis instructed Omega to finish him off. That's when you had Jon Moxley run down with a barbed wire baseball bat. He attacked Omega, but then, big shocker, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we had the Good Brothers show up. Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers arrived. They attacked Moxley. They hit the Magic Killer, and then Omega got the bat. He started using the barbed wire bat on Moxley. You had Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. trying to get involved. They got attacked. Other wrestlers tried to get involved. One of them got powerbombed through a table by Gallows. The beatdown continued, and then the Young Bucks came down to the ring, and the Bucks were acting like they were confused, not sure what to make of everything, but then they super kicked a couple of the guys on the outside, and then Omega did the too sweet. The Good Brothers came in for the too sweet, and then the final moment, the Young Bucks also came in for the too sweet. So it looks like full Bullet Club reunion here with these guys. Hell of an ending to the show. Although, does this mean the Bucks are heels again? Or are they pretending to be friends with these guys? I guess we'll find out next week's show. Nonetheless, good cliffhanger here. Finally, we're getting some more interaction with Impact and AEW on Dynamite with the Good Brothers showing up. I was waiting for that. Really good ending to the show. Main event was great. So it was really the last 30 minutes that carried this show. I thought the first hour and a half was not bad, but nothing that was overly spectacular. But the end of the show, the last 30 minutes, main event, post-show, post-match angle to end the show, I thought was very well done. Gary with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. He says, "This was too sweet. The tide has turned." And Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, "Is Rich Swann too much of a scrub to show up at AEW?" He might show up. I mean, I think it would elevate Rich Swann if he showed up on AEW. Just to give him a bit of a rub being on a show that's watched by more people. I think that would probably be a good thing for him to show up on Dynamite. I mean, the Good Brothers definitely felt like a big deal coming out there. And Axel with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Axel. I appreciate it. He says, "Plot twist, next week Reigns and Rollins debut to help Moxley, LOL." Yeah, you wish. I mean, if that did happen, I think the internet would break for real, but I would say there's a better chance of Donald Trump getting kicked out of the Hall of Fame than Reigns and Rollins appearing on an episode of Dynamite. Just saying. Dr. NXT Scorpio says, "The Elite Bullet Club reunion." Overall, I'm going to give the show a B+. Most of the high grade is due to the last 30 minutes of the show. Other than that, I felt like it was in the B- or even a C+ range. But yeah, the ending of the show and the final match really bumped it up for me. Very good show overall. I recommend checking it out, especially the last 30 minutes. Nick Glavin with a B+, Martin with a B, Mohammed with a B, Kim Hall B+, Tic Tat Tat with a B-, Kev with a B+, Israel with a B, Mike B with a B-, and Tyson with a B. Big Rocker Johnson says, "Moxley is the perfect hero to defeat the Bullet Club." Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Moxley, and he's kind of the loner, but he did have some people. I did like that people were trying to help him. I did think that was a good touch. Like, if nobody tried to help him, I'd be like, come on now, this is absurd. And the one and only Caleb Jacobs gives it a B, and Bruce gives it an A, Martin with a B+, and Calvin with a B. CC Drink gives NXT an A-. Did not watch AEW. Well, let's talk about the key matches of AEW. I was watching both shows and trying to keep up on both of them. We kicked off NXT with Damian Priest versus Karrion Kross. And this was a back and forth match between these guys. Priest, he was hurting from Kross, but he managed to hit the Razor's Edge. However, it was a delayed attempt at a cover, and Kross kicked out. Priest hit a dive to the outside. He hit the South of Heaven, which Kross kicked out of once again. And then Priest was slammed on the steel steps by Kross. Kross threw Priest into the barricade with the chain link fence. And then back in the ring, Kross hit a suplex. And then with a strike to the back of the head, he scored the pinfall victory over Priest. A lot of speculation about Priest now because there was a report that Priest was going to be called up and was going to debut on Smackdown last week. We'll see if that still happens. This very well could have been a blow-off for Priest. Maybe he's the next male superstar to go to the main roster. Time will tell. And speaking of people possibly being called up in the near future, we had Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez, last woman standing match. Really good stuff here from these two. To me, this was up there with Fenix versus Omega for match of the night. The women really tore it up. It was intense. They used all the weapons, kendo sticks, handcuffs. Raquel was handcuffed to the fence and she just broke out of it. The ring bell was used on Ripley. And Ripley got back body dropped onto the announce table. And that was brutal because it looked like she landed on the edge of the table. So it was pretty nasty and the table broke. And Raquel tried to bury all the stuff on her, but Ripley somehow managed to beat the count. They fought in the backstage area. Ripley speared Gonzalez through this glass window, which was crazy. And then they fought in the locker room area. Dakota Kai tried to interfere, and Ripley put her in a locker and put some big, whatever they're called, some kind of big production item, box, whatever, to cover her in the locker. And then the fight continued between Ripley and Gonzalez. They fought back on the staging area. There were steel steps there. They stood up on the steps, but then Gonzalez grabbed Ripley and launched her off of the steps. They both went off the steps down all the way into this platform below, which crashed through. They both went through it, and Gonzalez just barely managed to make the 10 count. She got back up to her feet and was declared the victor in the last woman standing match. And like I said earlier, much like Damian Priest, this felt like a send-off for Rhea Ripley. Like I've said it over the past few weeks. What can Ripley do in NXT? And now after losing this match to Gonzalez, kind of like the Big Show and Kevin Nash in early '99. There's only room for one giant in NXT. And Gonzalez is the new dominant giant. The young lion beat the old lion type of thing. I think now Ripley has to be going to the main roster. If it was me, I'd start her off hot, get her in the Royal Rumble, and I'd be totally cool with her winning it. You gotta rebuild Rhea Ripley now, and she should be on the main roster, and you gotta get her back in there. She was already at WrestleMania once, so let her win the Rumble and get her in title contention against either the Raw or SmackDown champion. Mo Camera says Rhea Ripley will get buried by Charlotte again. Well, they could do the rematch. Maybe Charlotte wins the title, although she's in the Rumble. But yeah, I really think that Ripley should have a strong showing in the Rumble and maybe win the whole thing. Johnny Boy with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you for that, Johnny Boy. I appreciate it. He says, NXT was the better show. The only thing I liked in AEW was the end. The women's last match, let me try that again. That women's last woman standing, though, and he gave it the seal of approval. Yeah, that match was awesome. I definitely recommend checking it out. And a couple other announcements on this show. We had the next takeover announced February 14th, Sunday the 14th. So Caitlin, we're watching NXT for Valentine's Day. Hopefully she's cool with that. And Women's Dusty Rhodes Classic was also announced, in addition to the men's. The men's tournament starts next week, but they will also be doing a Women's Dusty Classic. And looking at the comments here, Tic Tat Tat says Rhea Ripley versus Sasha Banks at Mania. And Nick Lavin fears that she will turn into a comedy gimmick with Vince. Vince will try to make her a punk rock star or something. Yeah, she might, or he might, I should say. We had our main event of the evening, which was Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor. O'Reilly getting his rematch for the championship. Another really good match from these guys. Probably not as good as the TakeOver 30 match, but for a TV match with maybe 10-15 minutes, it was damn good. Very intense, as you would expect. Balor tried to get some payback. You know, O'Reilly broke his jaw, so Balor, he put the rope in O'Reilly's mouth and then kicked him in the back of the head. But Balor, his arm got hurt during the match, and O'Reilly tried to capitalize on that. He got a near fall with a brain buster. He put a submission on, trying to work over the arm, but Balor got out of that. Balor got busted open at one point, but in the end, Balor managed to recover. He picked up the victory via submission over O'Reilly. Undisputed Era came out after the match to check on their fallen teammate, and Balor, with his face still bloodied up, celebrating with the championship. Kevin says, who was the heel and face in this match? I guess they're both faces, and that's what's going on here. But yeah, the match was really good. Strong match. I still think the match of NXT was the women's match, and AEW, obviously, Fenix and Omega was damn good. So, two amazing matches on each show, and NXT was solid. I'm not going to give it a letter grade since my main focus was AEW, but I did check out enough of NXT to say it was a very solid show. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, what are your thoughts on Balor's comment on Goldberg and the Legends? I think Balor's just trying to be a good company man, and hey, he's in NXT right now, so doesn't really affect him. But if he was on Raw, I wonder if he would have a different opinion. I wonder if he was the champ and Goldberg was coming in, how he would feel. I guess if he was getting the payday, he would not complain too much, but yeah, if he had to job out to Goldberg in 2 minutes, I wonder if he would still say the same things that he said in that interview. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the recap, the shows. I think they were both worth checking out for the most part. Like I said, AEW's last 30 minutes, that women's last woman standing match, I think were really strong. Pay-per-view quality. And Gary with a B+ for both shows. So there you go. Thank you, everybody, again. Stay positive and stay tuned for the No DQ review and Smackdown recaps. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. And I will see you guys next time.